Hello and welcome to the Elephant and Bear podcast, the show dedicated to sharing interesting tales from around Coventry and Warwickshire. I'm your host, Neil Young, and in today's show we welcome Howard Nead. Howard is the founder of Red Road, a coaching business based in Warwickshire. Howard, please can you introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure, thanks Neil. Hi everyone, I'm Howard Nead. I live in Little Kyneton in South Warwickshire, and I'm a solutions-focused coach, coaching senior executives and small business owners to exceed their potential and make better work-life balance decisions. My business is called Red Road, which is the name of the road which runs from virtually outside of our house through fields of wheat and barley and ends at Jilk's, our favourite local cafe. It's a place I like to go and think, and where I decided to step back from corporate life and use my knowledge and expertise to become a coach.
Fantastic, Howard. That sounds really interesting. Obviously, you're talking about your strong links to Warwickshire. So what does Warwickshire as a county mean to yourself, Howard?
Yeah, so Warwickshire has played three different roles in my life. It's where I first left home to study at university. It's where my wife and I took short breaks many times, firstly as a couple and then as a family with our two daughters. And since November 2020, it's been home following a move between COVID lockdowns 2 and 3.
Fantastic. And obviously you mentioned there you weren't born in Warwickshire, but came to Warwickshire as a student. So tell me, what are your memories of Warwickshire as a student at that time?
Absolutely. So I studied English and American literature at the University of Warwick from 1986 to 1989. I had an absolutely brilliant time. As long as you loved reading and were reasonably good at writing, it wasn't exactly a taxing degree. So I really used the time to grow and develop as a person and to get involved with a range of activities. I played a lot of sport, and surprisingly for someone who's quite short, I actually represented the university at handball on one occasion. Got involved with some societies, made the most of the brilliant arts centre, and obviously enjoyed lots of the hospitality in and around the university.
Perfect. And were you based in the campus at Warwick, or did you live in Coventry, Leamington? Where did you live when you were at university there?
Yeah, so first and third years were on campus, which was quite the norm at the time. Second year was at the bottom end of Leamington Spa, which I've enjoyed revisiting in recent times.
Yeah, I can imagine it's changed a fair bit since the late 80s.
Yes, although the pub that was opposite the house we lived in still looks like it hasn't been decorated since then.
Fantastic. And obviously you decided to return to Warwickshire later on. We were talking before about obviously you had a career in London in advertising with lots of kind of major brands. You then obviously decided to move away from London. Why Warwickshire? Why not somewhere else?
So really largely to do with my wife. She is doing a PhD in Shakespearean studies, based partly at the Shakespeare Institute in Stratford and partly at the University of Birmingham. So we pretty much drew a 10-mile radius around Stratford-upon-Avon. We knew the area reasonably well from lots of visits, and just started house hunting and eventually found the house we now live in Little Kyneton.
Fantastic. So, yeah, Shakespearean studies. There's no better place to be kind of Warwickshire than is there really? So, fantastic. From the kind of the Shakespeare theme, if you were working for the tourist board for Warwickshire, what would be the focus of your promotions, Howard?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because obviously Shakespeare dominates this part of Warwickshire. I really believe this is an underappreciated part of the world. A lot of the focus is inevitably on history and Shakespeare, but my wife and I are always saying how we think a lot of it is as pretty as the Cotswolds. It's just not quite as famous. It's got some wonderful places to eat and drink, and a shout out to Shooker's, Jilk's and the Corner Cottage Bakery in Kyneton, and has some great art galleries where I must admit we have spent a little bit of our money.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think is a lot bigger area than the Cotswolds. It often can get mixed messaging, isn't there, of the different areas, but actually,
like Colinton, Gaydon, around that area. There's such lovely scenery around that area. Fantastic.
If you had
Really is.
£100 million to give you, unfortunately, I can't give you real money. I'll give you 100 million monopoly money to spend on improving Warwickshire. What would be the first?
Yeah, this is going to be a really selfish answer, but I would invest it in more defined walking spaces in rural areas. We're relatively new dog owners, and we often find we're faced with the option of walking along a winding country road with cars, tractors, horses and cyclists, or risking going into a field where it's not really clear if there's a public right of way or not. So I would create some more walking spaces for walkers and dog owners alongside country roads.
Yeah, a very good idea. We like walking in the country and different places, but yeah, it's often very hard, isn't it, to know, can I walk here, and what's the kind of the right approach? And if you've got dogs, or you've got kind of children, you want to be able to just kind of pull up on a map. Yeah, this is the where I can go, and know that you've got a clearly defined walk and a clearly defined finish as well, whether it's at a local pub or a local cafe you finish at, or if it's a circular walk back to where you started. So yeah, I'd be fully behind that suggestion. Fantastic. Okay, in terms of people that you associate with Warwickshire, who would be the best associate with Warwickshire, and why?
I'm going to go back in time a little bit. I'm a bit of a history buff. I love the Wars of the Roses and the Tudors. And I've always been a bit fascinated by Richard Neville, who was the 16th Earl of Warwick, but was known as Warwick the Kingmaker, which I always thought was a brilliant name. His was a classic life of the 15th century. He came from an entitled background. He suddenly became very powerful. He switched allegiance between kings quite happily, had a brilliant nickname, and died fairly young in a battle. I mean, what's not to love?
Please excuse this brief interruption. This podcast is made possible by Plan with Neil. Plan with Neil is an independent financial advisor from Coventry, helping people improve their financial well-being by supporting them with retirement planning, life insurance, and much more. Please check out the website planwithneil.com and book a free discovery session today. Now, back to the podcast. Fantastic. I don't kind of know much about Warwick the Kingmaker, or a TV program, The Tudors, possibly, where he was kind of portrayed, but maybe that's something I need to be kind of researching a little bit more, and seeing kind of his influence on Tudor England and politics of switching allegiances between kings as well. So
I mean, we think we live in tricky political times. They really whether their heads remained on their shoulders really depended on which way they were voting. So quite serious implications.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And what's your favourite place in Warwickshire, Howard?
I don't think you'd need to offer a prize to anyone for guessing. It's the Royal Shakespeare Theatre in Stratford-upon-Avon. My wife and I have been patrons there for many years. We've had many visits. We love the fact we can go now and be home before 11 o'clock rather than heading back to London or staying overnight. We've always loved going to the theatre, but we also love walking along the River Avon. And I have to say, compared to when we first started coming regularly 30 years ago, there are loads more good restaurants and cafes in Stratford than there used to be.
Yeah, it's a fantastic place for an evening or a weekend or however long, and have a world class theatre within the county is a real privilege.
Yeah,
obviously the theatre is world famous, but can you think of any kind of hidden gems in Warwickshire that people should avoid?
Absolutely, and it's almost on our doorstep, and we vaguely knew of it, but hadn't really been aware of it. But it's a place called Compton Verney, which is an absolutely stunning house, lake, and capability brown design garden in South Warwickshire that really seems to be not very well known outside of the local region. It's a great place to walk, to see art. They had a fantastic light show on in the grounds over the winter as well. And I recently met someone who goes wild swimming in the lake there, but I have to say that's a step too far for me.
Yeah, I think that'd be a step too far for me as well. Really, the wild swimming, I can kind of see the appeal, but doing it myself, I don't think would be of my street. Compton Verney, is that? I believe.
It's not. So it's an independent charity, which is why it's probably not as well known. It was actually featured on Countryfile probably about 2 months ago. For anyone who wants to dig back on BBC Sounds and try and find it, they had a little piece on how they tried to return the gardens to more of the original vision of Capability Brown.
Yeah, because I know Capability Brown also did the gardens over in as well, so influence across Coventry and Warwickshire as well, which is fantastic. And you can still see the influence today, and how nice these places
and visit
on days out.
Yeah, Coombe Abbey would be in my top 3 actually. If I was allowed 3, that would probably be in there as well, because it's a lovely place.
Yeah, brilliant. Obviously, again, to kind of the walking as well, doesn't it? And having nice places to take animals or just yourself to enjoy the green spaces of the area.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Howard, is there anything you miss from Warwickshire's past?
I don't really miss stuff from the past, but given its heritage with cars, I really hope the region becomes the established leader in electric vehicles, because that's clearly the future.
Yeah. I think there's hopefully promising signs in terms of the electric taxis being built nearby. Obviously, kind of Jaguar Land Rover, and their hopefully successful transition to electric cars, and hopefully investments in battery technology as well. So fingers crossed, the links to the past. I was speaking to someone just a couple of weeks ago, and there was an American company that is now investing in of Warwickshire and bringing infrastructure over to here, because they know that they've got the knowledge and the talent from people who have worked for Land Rover, Aston Martin, etc. in the past, that they can then call upon. Hopefully kind of the electric car is just the next evolution of Coventry and Warwickshire's manufacturing history stage.
Yeah, I really hope so.
Yeah, fantastic. In terms of describing Warwickshire to outside, how would you describe it?
Yeah, well, we do this quite a lot, because I think quite a few of our friends from North London and Hertfordshire still think we're slightly mad to have moved. But actually, it's open, it's friendly, it's a great mix of urban and rural. And whilst it does have an attachment to the past, it hasn't got this focus on the future with gigafactories and urban airports and so on. So it's a lot more contemporary than people who may only know the world through London's eyes think. So I think it's a really nice mix of the two.
Yeah, definitely. I think what Warwickshire has of diversity and a lot of things in the past, which obviously things in the present and the future, which look really promising. And obviously, if you do ever need to go back to London, it's not far at all, really, particularly on the train, is it, Howard?
It really isn't. You'd think from some of the people that we know that it was 10,000 miles away, but it really isn't that far.
Yeah, no. Take me long from Coventry to get into London, and probably not too far for yourself as well once you get to your nearest train station. Fantastic. I'm going to move on to some quickfire questions. First of all, can you just tell me what your favourite Warwickshire town is, please?
I'm going to go back to the past, but I really like the way that, as you said, Leamington Spa is developed. It's got some really quirky shops and restaurants and co-working spaces. And I think it's becoming a really contemporary town.
Definitely, there's lots to kind of do there, and it's all kind of condensed into a fairly small space where you've got a bit of green space as well as the shops that you need and the restaurants, etc. as well. So fantastic.
Yeah, really like it there.
And if you had to choose between Kenilworth Castle or Warwick Castle, what would be your choice?
I've chosen Warwick Castle. It's the place we first took the kids to see one of those sort of medieval battle reconstructions, and we have sort of fond memories of that as an early day out with them. So Warwick Castle it is.
Perfect. I think I know the answer to this one before I ask it, but do you prefer North Warwickshire or South Warwickshire?
It's South Warwickshire, and I really do need to spend some time exploring North Warwickshire. So south it is.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't think you've got anything particularly against North Warwickshire. It's all your experiences have been South Warwickshire with Stratford and obviously kind of Warwick University in the past as well.
Correct. I don't know where Birmingham sits on that divide, but I'm going to a few events at the Commonwealth Games, so looking forward to that.
Fantastic. What events are you planning to see in the Commonwealth Games?
All sorts of things. I'm going to see badminton, rugby sevens, some athletics, and one other one that's gone out of my head now is hockey, which is actually at the Birmingham University, the hockey.
Fantastic. Yeah, so should event, and as we're recording this, I think they're doing one of the events starting over the next couple of days in terms of their parade or whatever it is. Fantastic.
Yeah, and I think there's cycling going through Warwick. There's the bowls in Leamington. There's all sorts of things.
Yeah, the bowls in Leamington and events at the arena in Coventry as well.
Yeah, that's where the rugby is actually.
Brilliant. So that's all in terms of questions on today's podcast. It's been great speaking to you, Howard. Can you just give us a bit more information about how people about you and the services that you offer?
Sure. So I'd love to connect with anyone who's contemplating coaching, thinking they need a neutral perspective, just someone to talk to and discuss potential issues and find solutions. You can find me at www.redroadco.com, redroadco.com. You can find me on LinkedIn under Red Road Consultancy or Howard Nead. Probably just easiest to find me there. I do have various other social media channels, but I think those are the two best ways to find me initially. And I'd really welcome the chance to chat and get to know you and see if coaching is a solution for anyone out there.
Perfect. That's really helpful and really. Like I say, thanks for your time today, Howard. I look forward to seeing you again soon. And thank you very much. Thanks. Brilliant. To the audience.
Great chatting to you, Neil, and loving the podcast.